Hello, my name is Elly Vintiadis and I'm a philosopher at the American College of Greece in Athens. I would like to start by thanking Lisa Bortolotti for inviting me to this virtual book launch. I have never done a virtual book launch before, and I think it's a great idea, both in the current circumstances, but also in general, because it can reach many people, and I think that this is always a good thing. I started following Lisa's work when I started doing research on mental health disorders, and I came across some of her work on mental health stigma. I started out as an epistemologist, and then my interest gradually shifted to philosophy of mind and philosophy of psychiatry. And I mainly work on what mental disorders can tell us about the metaphysics of mind, but also about what the best explanatory approach is in order to address mental disorders effectively. So in this sense, Lisa's work, and of course her team's work, was a natural fit to my interests. Because I do philosophy of mind, I do a lot of interdisciplinary research. And when I found out about the perfect project that Lisa heads, which brings together researchers from many different disciplines, philosophy, psychology, psychiatry, this immediately felt like a perfect fit. I read the book Epistemic Innocence of Irrational Beliefs in 2 days, and though I had an idea of its content, I found it extraordinarily insightful, instructive, and thought-provoking. And I think it will definitely contribute in the years to come to epistemology and the ethics of belief, but also philosophy of mind and philosophy of psychiatry. But I also believe it will have an effect in the practices of psychiatry and psychology. And for this, I need to give credit to the Imperfect Cognitions Research Network, of which I have been a part for the past 5 years, and which has brought together researchers from very different disciplines in a very constructive dialogue. I think this is extremely important because not only can we as philosophers, gain from being open to other points of view and be informed about actual scientific research, but I think that people from other disciplines can benefit from a more conceptual work. Now, the main idea of the book is that certain defective cognitive processes, that is, cognitive processes that do not track the truth, can be epistemically beneficial for the person holding them. That would not be otherwise available. And Lisa Bortolotti calls such, beliefs really, epistemically innocent, following the legal concept of an innocent defense. An illegal action can be considered, can be excused if it was performed in order to prevent harm from happening that could not otherwise have been avoided. And of course, if an action was done unintentionally. Now, in both these cases, constraints apply, but the general idea that Lisa puts forward in the book is that in a similar way, certain defective beliefs, though they may be epistemically rational in the sense that we do not adopt them based on adequate evidence, nor do we revise them in the face of evidence against them, can prevent something epistemically bad from happening, or they can even bring about something epistemically good. And in this sense, they are excused and are innocent. Because had the person not had those beliefs, the epistemic outcome for the person would have been worse. It's important here to remember that a belief that is epistemically innocent in one context may not necessarily be epistemically innocent in another. And also that there's no other less irrational belief that could have done the job. This is a condition that Lisa calls the no alternative options condition. And I will return to this in a bit. Now, Lisa argues that such beliefs can contribute to our epistemic functionality, either indirectly by enabling agency, so strengthening our pursuit and attainment of epistemic goals in that way, or by contributing directly to the attainment of epistemic goals. Now, in epistemology, we usually assess beliefs in terms of whether they are justified or true, and it's commonly accepted that it is our duty to adopt and revise beliefs based on evidence. However, it's commonplace in general that I think that beliefs that are not well grounded or impervious to evidence can be psychologically beneficial to us. Knowledge is not always good for us. It can even be harmful. So sometimes closing off to certain truth, holding tight to certain truth can be good for us psychologically. What Lisa adds to this is the idea that such beliefs can also confer epistemic benefits, and I think this is a genuine and important contribution. Now, the discussion in the epistemic innocence of irrational beliefs focuses on voluntary mental states. I think, on involuntary mental states, sorry. I think it would be interesting to explore whether certain other mental states or behaviors that we voluntarily enter into could also be epistemically innocent. For example, I was thinking of mental states such as desire or the tendency for voluntary substance use, ranging from cigarettes to alcohol to recreational drug use or to long-term controlled use of substances. I think the argument can be made that there are epistemic benefits that can be gained from these, as well as psychological benefits. And I think it would be interesting to explore whether these can be classified as epistemically innocent. Now, the obvious objection to this, and this is what I'm getting at, is that in such cases, alternatives are available that are not harmful to one's health or to one's overall epistemic functionality. And so in this case, the no alternative options condition is not fulfilled. And so we should not say that such states are epistemically innocent. Now, however, though alternative options may be available in some sense, they may not be the best choice or a live option, to use a term from William James, for the agent, given his character. So the alternatives might be more costly, might be more time-consuming, or they might just not be the kind of thing that the person with certain character traits would engage in. And this relates, and I'll return to this in a bit, that something which I think has been a thread in Lisa's work over the years, and this is the importance of context in evaluating rationality, mental disorders, and mental states in general. And in the epistemic innocence of irrational belief, Lisa again contextualizes our conditions and draws our attention to the interaction between ourselves and our environment when it comes to epistemic functionality. This is very important, and it goes against the decontextualized view that is prominent today, but also historically, in epistemology and the philosophy of mind. But the fact is that if we're interested in recognitions of real epistemic agents, considering them as embedded in a world and a social environment in which they need to survive and flourish in is very important, as it is to take into consideration the character and the psychological makeup of the person, of the agent himself. So my point being that what is an alternative for one person might not really be an alternative for someone else. On a related point, and if I have understood everything correctly, I think that the characterization of epistemic innocence, which I think is a very important and useful notion, might be too broad, and I think that it should be circumscribed a bit more strictly. And this is because there are cases that I think fulfill the criteria for epistemic innocence that are not, though, really epistemically innocent. And this thought was triggered in me by current discussions on domestic violence, given the social distancing measures taken for the COVID-19 virus. I was thinking about victims of such abuse and the epistemic status of the beliefs that they adopt. Victims of epistemic abuse try to explain the actions of their abuser, but also their own actions, in order to make sense of them in a broader narrative. So the broader narrative being that the person, that their husband or their abuser loves them and that he's a good person. And I say he because in most cases the abuser is a man, but I don't want to imply that this is always unnecessarily the case. Now, these seems to me to be clear cases of confabulation. We confabulate when we tell a story that is not backed up by the relevant evidence, but we genuinely believe it to be a true story. And the victims have many reasons to confabulate. One obvious one being that they have invested emotionally in this relationship. So they make up stories like all couples fight. He was tired and I pushed him a bit too much. He was stressed and I was annoying and he reacted, but he apologized, and this really happens to all of us, right? Now, in some cases, these kinds of confabulation can have the epistemic benefits that Lisa mentions, and so can be epistemically innocent. For example, in confabulating, the victim perceives the situation as normal, so will be open to discuss it with her peers and her friends. And in doing so, she might be confronted with someone who challenges her belief, who tell her that this is not okay, that this is not normal. And this feedback may, in the long run or the short run, lead her to revise her beliefs. If instead she had not felt, she had not talked about it, revising such beliefs would not be possible. The confabulation also can serve to allow the victim to maintain a sense of her self-conception, a sense of coherence of her beliefs. It might allow her to give her an illusion of control, of strength and importance, and this can help her avoid a sense of helplessness. So by integrating the victim's belief into a broader narrative, it can boost a sense of agency, and this can in turn have the indirect epistemic benefit that she will pursue and attain all sorts of goals, including her epistemic goals. And this seems to fit perfectly with what Lisa calls the confabulations in non-clinical context. Such confabulations are epistemically irrational. They confer epistemic benefits, and there are no alternatives that could do the job, in the sense that alternatives are either not motivationally available or explanatory available. So though the beliefs are ill-grounded and may not be epistemically good overall, they positively contribute to the epistemic functionality of the agent. But this explanation, in addition to, I think, stretching the possibility and importance of epistemic benefits too much, so because everything can have epistemic benefits, though of course this doesn't mean that everything is epistemically innocent, I think doesn't give the due importance to the social context in which the epistemic, the confabulation takes place. Because though Lisa acknowledges that what cognitive resources are available to you will depend on your social environment, but there's something more. The epistemic outcome of your confabulation will also depend on the environment. If the social context is one that supports your confabulation and does not contribute to you becoming aware of it, then though the criteria of epistemic innocence may be fulfilled, the confabulation may not be innocent after all. And here I'm thinking about the society where it's commonplace for men to beat up women in a relationship. It's part of life. It's the way that women are held in place. So in this case, the abused victim and her peers may think that nothing needs changing. So to borrow an idea from Miranda Fricker, the very idea that something is wrong may not even be hermeneutically available to them. So in this case, there's no guarantee that the victim's story will lead her to revising her beliefs in the future, or that her perceived agency will help her to pursue and attain epistemic goals. So though there may be a sense that her confabulations might be beneficial, I think her confabulations in this case, the victim's confabulation in this case, can be harmful and not be epistemically innocent. Now, I really need to wrap this up because I'm running out of time. But to recapitulate, in some cases, I think the conditions for epistemic innocence are fulfilled without the beliefs being really epistemically innocent. So the conditions for epistemic innocence that I cited above and that Lisa cites may not be sufficient conditions for epistemic innocence. Also, we need to take into account social factors that affect epistemic innocence, and also the psychological makeup of agents, psychological factors. And in this sense, we need to clarify the no alternative options conditions for epistemic innocence. I think these 2 points are not, can be addressed by taking a more contextualized approach to epistemic innocence. And I think that this is really something that Lisa Bortolotti will really not object to. And lastly, I think it would be interesting to see whether other mental states, maybe even mental states that we voluntarily enter into, could be epistemically innocent. Now, having said all this, I must say that the fact that I'm departing a bit from Lisa's approach here should not cloud the fact that I have a very high opinion of this book. I think it's a great contribution to the literature. I think it's a tremendously insightful book, and I think we should be deeply grateful to Lisa for writing this book and also for running the her research project for the past few years, and for all that we have learned from it, and we will continue to learn from it in the future. Thank you.